Live from District of Unity Studios. Here's today's top story. The Second Civil War begins. Protests are brewing everywhere, thanks to the mainstream media. District of Unity presents Red vs. Blue vs. the Elite. Controlling the narrative in mainstream media, here's our lovely host Mr. Carl Jr.
Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. I'm Carl. I verified it with my name badge. I verified it with my poster in the back of me. I had an issue here, and I was pondering over it for the past couple of weeks. Just looking at the news. I looked at the news at different levels, just to get into it. I looked at the local news, basically Orlando area and so forth. I looked at the fact that they just cover the news. And I didn't have a problem with that. I didn't hear like a liberal spin to it. I didn't hear a Republican spin to it, a conservative viewpoint. And I actually like taking in the news. I think on a local level with the news, and sorry, I'm kind of doing the eye roll here because I think on my feed or whatever. The problem that I see with the different levels of media, I think with local media, they have time constraints. They have 30 minutes to an hour to basically tell you some of the high points of what's going on in the community and so forth. And that's all they have time for. It's like breaking news or big news story, then they go to weather, they go to traffic. If some sports happen, they'll hit that. Then they'll talk about maybe one or two stories that's going on in the community and so forth. They may highlight some other stuff. If any legislative things are going on, they'll mention that. They don't have time for the BS. They don't have time to say who's dating who, and if they do, it's got to be like a big event. There's a royal, wedding that's going on, and they'll highlight that, or something with Will Smith and Jada or Chris Rock or whatever the hell is hot at that point, and then that's it. They don't have time to put their spin on it. They don't have time to sit over there and try to get you to feel one way or the other way about it. So then when you go a level up to the national news, and I'm not talking about CNN and MSNBC and stuff like that. I'm talking about just the old school networks like the CBSs, the ABCs, the NBCs. Fox ain't necessarily old school, but they part of the legacy media. They have more time to put out a narrative. They don't do it hard, but they do it in a subtle way because they have more time to talk about it. So with the local newscast being 30 minutes to an hour, it's like they don't have a lot of time for fluff pieces. But then when you get to the national level, they start adding in, the executives, whatever their political spin is, or whatever the political, narrative is, or the social narrative. It doesn't always have to be political, it could be a social narrative. They'll start weaving in some of that stuff for you to be, intrigued by. It's just enough honey to attract, a certain number of people to be like, there's some good stuff here. But then when you get to the actual channels, now we're talking like the cable channels or YouTube channels. You have this platform where they can put all kinds of stuff in your head and all kinds of stuff that makes you think differently about life and why am I here, or why am I doing this, or why is this happening? Why is the world crashing around me? And I I thought it was a good day, and then I saw the news and it's like, oh my God, COVID is killing, millions of people. I didn't realize all of this conflict was going on, and what is wrong with those damn Republicans, and what is what is this woke thing? Oh my God, the LGBTQ community is, they're running rampant. All these protests. I can't believe the police did this. I can't believe, this got torn down. I can't believe, it's like they get into these stories and then you have the talking heads up there that enhances the story by bringing on guests that they never let speak. You know what I'm saying? If you're going on a show like, I don't even know the names of the shows because I don't even watch MSNBC, but any talking head, you going on their show, 9 times out of 10, if you're not on their agenda, you're not going to get a chance to say anything that you want to talk about. And they're going to cut you off, deny, try to make you look like an idiot up there, and then that's the end of the story. It's like, I don't want to hear it no more. And then everybody out there who usually watches these shows, 70% of their audience is on their side because they want to be watching the show if they weren't, you know, especially if you watch the same shows over and over and over again. You can put that to Fox. You can put that to CNN. MSNBC will insert major channel here that you watch, and whatever that narrative that they spin, that person is like 99.9%. Yep, that's exactly what they doing. That's exactly what it is. Let me tell you something. We as people are stupid. I'm just gonna say it straight up. We're lazy because we only take the information that's fed to us. We don't do our own research. We don't get further into subjects. We as people, and I'm not talking about black, white, I'm talking about all of us. We only take what's fed to us. And what happens with the mass media narrative, behind that, there's an elitist point of view. There's folks making money off of Discord in this country. You know, they are willing to sit over there. If Americans got united, truly united, you know, anything that you see that goes on that is going to make the population turn against each other, we would stamp that out. It's like anybody starts spewing some of the garbage, like, you know, you have to isolate yourselves from people that didn't do this and didn't do that. You're going to start turning on, you know, all of the people that's pushing that narrative down to you. There's been 3 times, and this is, my opinion, not fact, that I've seen Americans start to come together until something else split us apart in recent memory. The Kennedy assassination, you know, even people that didn't like him, they were crying for him. I can take off what my parents had mentioned about it. Obviously, I wasn't thought about yet. I was coming, but I wasn't there yet. Um, it was like all I can remember. My mother said that she was scared. She she didn't. She was in high school at that point. Matter of fact, that was her last year because she graduated in 1964. Um, she was saying how scared she was and how scared that area was because they actually thought it was a Russian or a Cuban thing that they was just taking out the leaders, and she didn't know whether or not it was going to be World War III or whatever. I remember when my dad was talking. My dad was obsessed with the Kennedy assassination. I mean, he had like every Time Life book. He had every um, document. I mean, the picture of Oswald, being shot. That award-winning picture of Ruby shooting him. I mean, he was obsessed with that Kennedy assassination. I couldn't tell you how many books he had. Just as many Malcolm X books he had Kennedy assassination books, and he also had a lot of books on Egyptology and stuff like that. I mean, he was obsessed with Egypt, ancient Egypt. I mean, you know, he was a basically like a college professor. I mean, he was studied everything. He was a very studious man. I wish I had gotten some of his intellect, you know, um, but that's a whole different story. But I noticed looking at old footage of the Kennedy assassination, and we may do a podcast with it, and I may have some friends come in and we'll have a good discussion about that and other subjects and so forth. America started coming together until Vietnam. Civil rights, obviously, you know, was a big issue back then, too. So you think about that, something had to be, a wedge had to be driven in. They can't have people coming together because if it's a united front, we can't push no bullshit to make money on the masses. I mean, it's all about the dollar. It's not even about the narrative. The narrative is not even hard anymore. It's like, I'm just trying to get paid. I'm trying to get this company paid, so forth. That is what the elitists are doing. And there's a secondary part of that elite that has this thought process that we know better than you about what this world should operate. And you can be not not trying to sound like Yoda and put words out of context, but you can be at a level in your life where your insecurity dominates the way you live and the way you process information. And everybody else is wrong. And I know I'm right because I feel like this is wrong. That's an elitist mindset. When you don't do any research on something and you get to a point in your life where, you take that attitude, you know, you're starting to think like an elite. Okay. Um, Let me get to the other two scenarios that Americans started coming together. 9/11. Now, you know, most of us alive has, felt the after effects of that one. And to a lesser extent, Hurricane Katrina. To a lesser extent. I think that tugged at our heartstrings more than anything else. But we felt those three incidences, Um, I know with 9/11, it was like I had to tell my kids, because they, I can still think at that time my daughter had asked me, Dad, who's attacking us? Because they were confused. They couldn't understand what the hell was going on. And you have a whole bunch of adults trying to figure out what the hell is going on, and you try to explain that to your kids. I kind of feel like that's how JFK's assassination was. It was like we had to explain that we had to figure out why and, how could this happen, blah, blah, blah. You go through that process of grief. First thing is shock, then it's like, you start asking questions, then it gets to the point where it's like you start trying to put all these pieces back together. So I felt what my kids felt then with 9/11. 9/11 was so shocking that the enemies of America, the natural enemies of America like Russia and China and Cuba, they even was like, dude, we, we're here to help you out. I mean, that's like the Legion of Doom helping out the Justice League. You know what I'm saying? It's like, dude, that was so messed up. We got you over here, and Malcolm X even said that at one time when your enemies are coming to help you, it's a bad situation, Um, so, with all that being said, with Hurricane Katrina, obviously the when the levees broke and you had a lot of the man on the street interviews where it just got to the point where it was like wow, just looking at that devastation live. And I had to equate that to like Vietnam, because I'm sure when Americans saw not film footage that you doctor but actual live video feed of what's happening, that's pretty jarring, you know and I still remember it was this one guy, and I can't think of, the incident. I mean, I saw he had been in his 40s, but he looked to me like a little kid. How a kid loses a toy or, get lost somewhere or whatever. I mean, he was so bewildered. And I remember the female reporter was asking him, some questions, and he was like, "I lost my wife," and then she was like, "Where is she?" And he was like, "Oh no, she got washed away the river." Even I was like, in tears, crying over that because I was like, it was just so jarring and devastating what happened. And, Americans started getting together. But then it's always that narrative. They always have to drive a wedge into, they start getting into the blame game. Then they say, well, the Republicans approved this bill. Democrats denied this bill. Democrats tried to put this bill through. Republicans denied it, and it just kept going on and on. Sorry, I'm getting tongue tied here. It's early in the morning, so the coffee haven't kicked in yet, but it's all good. I think you get what I'm getting at. So, with this media driven narrative of trying to stay conservative on these issues, staying liberal on these issues, and people only watching stuff that they feel comfortable with, you got all of this discord in this nation. You know, I mean, you start looking at black people as being the enemy, Jewish being the enemy, whites being the enemy. You have, you know, Asians coming in, now they're the enemy. And nobody's listening to each other. And you start tuning out stuff where it's like, all right, somebody's making a logical point, and then as soon as they say a buzzword, it's like, I don't want to hear nothing else this person got to say. You know, as soon as somebody mentions something about Trump and you are a liberal, no, 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 no. I don't want to hear nothing about Trump. You know what I'm saying? And then on the other side of the fence, if you mention, Obama or Biden, a conservative is the same way. La 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 la. It's like they don't want to hear nothing that you have to say after that. And I remember, and it may have been some different talk show hosts or whatever, and it may have been reporters. I don't remember what it was, but it was like a man on the street interview. And I remember they was reading the Affordable Care Act, and they didn't say who brought it up or whatever. They just read what it did or whatever, and then they could have left some stuff out of there. People agreed with it until they heard Obama was behind it. It was like, oh hell no, nah, I don't even want to hear it. You know. Then I remember it was some sort of I don't remember if it was a gun bill. It probably wasn't a gun bill, but it has something to do with a Republican based issue. And they didn't say who was behind it. And when they mentioned something about some, hot button conservative, whether it was Trump or, whoever else, it was like they didn't want to hear any more of it, even though they agreed with it until they figured out a name with it. We got to get past this DNR crap, you know, because everything that happens bad is not associated with Trump. Everything good is not associated with Obama and Biden, you know, and you can flip it the other way. Things that are good are not always associated with Trump. Things that are bad are not associated with Biden or Obama. So you just have to get away from this crap, and start looking and reading between the lines of some of this stuff. If COVID haven't woke you up at this point, I'm gonna tell you, I lost a lot of friends because of COVID, not because of death, because of their mind, you know, because it played so hard to their insecurity that they started acting out of their. I mean, it was like, you know, people get into a comfort zone, you know, just like, and let me give you a good analogy of this. It's just like a lottery winner. Okay, you knew them, they acted, nice. Of course, we all have our, bad points or whatever. We go through our moods sometime. I have a nasty temper. I have, certain things about me that is like, okay, Carl, you need to work on this and get this out of the way or whatever. And then the other side of the fence to that is like, there's a lot of good points that bring people into you. So where I'm getting at is like, just like that lottery winner, they won $1 billion. They're in their comfort zone. So whatever's deep down inside of them, they don't change. They just have a platform to do what they need to do. So if they're a good guy deep down inside and they start giving and helping out every community, every church, every organization, bought this person a house, bought that person a house, bought this person a car, send this person on vacation, whatever, whatever, that's going to come out because they're in their comfort zone and they have the means to do it. Just like the opposite. If they wanted to go to every strip club and do this and do that and cause discord, they're in their comfort zone because they want to cause chaos. They want to be famous. They want to be that person or whatever. They want to be nasty or whatever. Same thing with insecurity. Whatever bothers you the most and you get a platform to avoid it, you're going to do it. Okay? It's like, I felt like with COVID, a lot of what was deep inside of some of my quote unquote friends at that time, they just had the platform to act out. You know, they could use mental health as an excuse. They could use, oh, I don't think this person is clean, or I don't think this person is, health aware. So I could keep them away from me. You know what I'm saying? And I had questions about them before. Now I got the platform to isolate people, or I have the platform not to go to work. I have the platform, to start taking every illicit drug possible because they say this will make me, feel healthy and feel, you know, like I'm in my safe space and stuff like that. That's all that COVID did. I'm telling you, it made everybody that was insecure completely insecure. And then the people that want to hate and discriminate, that just came out even more on the other side of it, you know? And I'm telling you, if people really could look at how silly they look doing some of the stuff that they did after that crisis, and you shine that spotlight on them and see how a lot of them are acting now and how elite they're getting. I'm telling you, but because some of these people, they lost their mind and they don't realize how much they lost their mind. And through losing their mind, they started to lose their soul over this. So, this elite mentality is what we're trying to fight against. You think about the corporations and how they're trying to spread their narratives, and it's ever changing. One moment, it's like they want the population to do this. Once that revenue start going down, they switch over here and then they start doing this, and then people because we're stupid, we just watch that TV set and it's like, yep, that's exactly what it is. Or we listen to that radio station or whatever on satellite. They spewing that garbage. It's like, yep, that's exactly what's going on. They take a half truth and it gets your attention. Then they add all these other scenarios to it, and then you start believing it and you start following it. When something like that is not really happening. And you think about the narrative with LGBTQ. Look, if you're two consenting adults, you do whatever you want to do. You don't have to sit there and let everybody know what you are because it's nobody's business to know what you are. But the media narrative is like, you got to get in their face. They got to accept you. They must validate you and so forth. Nobody has to validate you but you. I mean, if you can't get past yourself, how are you going to convince somebody else to validate you? If you don't have enough in you to believe in you, who else is going to believe in you? And the last thing any elitists want is for a collective group to get together. If they notice, like, in the South, they love to barter a lot. If my bathroom is messed up or my kitchen is messed up and you're willing to fix the floor, fix the shower, install a bathtub, and so forth, I'm good at, you know, building computers, building networks, and stuff like that, or working on a car, or working on something else that you need done. Okay, you fix that, I fix that, we're good. They don't want that. They don't want us getting along. They always have to drive the wedge. They gotta have an enemy in order to get, advertising dollars. They have to have big pharma. They have to have big corporations to support their narrative. You know, it's crept into sports, it's crept into our media, and even worse, it's crept into our minds. We don't even look at each other as human beings anymore. We just look at each other like, oh, he's a Democrat. We can't talk to him. Oh, he's a Republican. We can't talk to him. Oh, they're part of the Green Party. They're idiots over there. You know, it's like we can't even have the discussion without starting World War III. And both sides have gotten to the point where it's like if you don't agree with 100% of their narrative, you're the enemy. And if you don't have these set of values, you're the enemy. The whole point of platforms is to be able to discuss the problems. You're not going to agree with everything I say, and I damn sure ain't going to agree with everything that you're saying. But we should be willing to listen to each other and stop this elitist mindset and stop doing this DNR thing and this red and blue thing, you know, and really start listening to what, you know, is going on out there in the real world and try to put an understanding of how we're going to solve these problems and stop listening to a talking head saying, you know, Obama and Biden are the enemy and Trump is the enemy or whatever. I said it before when Trump got elected, you know, that it shouldn't be Trump that they're worried about. It's the people that follow Trump that they should be worried about. And just like when Obama first got elected, everybody said he was like, the last hope and the greatest hope that's coming through. Both sides are disappointed. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff that they did. There's a lot of bad stuff that they did. And you can go through every president and see what agenda they actually accomplished. And some of them have great legacies, some of them have worse legacies. That's just how it is. You know, everything that goes on in the news does not affect you personally, you know, and the stuff that does, all right, let your mind deduce that. Don't let somebody tell you what you should feel, and don't have anybody that's dragging you down in life. You know, people just need to get away from this crap because it's destroying everything that America is about, which is unity and coming together for common causes. I mean, and even if that common cause is hurting somebody else, then have the discussion to fix that. We can't even have the discussion without somebody tuning out or just saying, oh, because of such and such is this way, I don't even want to hear it. And we've done that to ourselves because we act stupid when it comes to issues like that. Until somebody really starts thinking and stop watching, you know, we're going to go through this cycle over and over again, you know. So a lot of the stuff that I heard, from 60, 70 years ago still applies to this day in 2023. It still applies to this day in 2023 because nobody wants you to let it go. And if this keeps happening, you know, we're going to be in the second Civil War. We're going to be in World War III, and it's your fault. I'm gonna have to put the blame back on people out there because you don't want to listen, you don't want to act, you don't want to be accountable, and you're not willing to help. So that's a recipe for disaster right there. So when people get to that point where they're so much into self-care, self-awareness, and it's all about them, you got society the way it is now, where people don't want to work, they don't want to be accountable, they're blaming somebody else, and they're hiding behind their religion, they're hiding behind, their cause, they hide behind whatever the media is telling them, and you yourself have an elitist mindset, even though you don't have that elitist pocketbook. You know, that's my opinion. Until next time.